I call David Shearer.
Chair. Sir, I just want to pick up where we just last left off, because I don't agree with the Minister, because this is the OIA I received from the Ministry of Justice, and yes, she got a memo on this on the 12th of February, but this actually went through on the 14th of December in Australia. It was brought to the Ministry's attention by a media outlet in the end of January. Prime Minister Abbott and Key talked about it at their ministerial meeting in February, and yet it's taken now until the 17th of November, with 2 weeks of Parliament effectively let to go, that we are actually rushing this through under urgency. I don't buy the argument that yes, we had to have the information sharing agreement absolutely nailed down, because right now we still don't have good information coming out of Australia. I mean, pretty much everybody knows that Australia, because of their complex federal and state system, are not providing the information that we need to be able to process in good time the people that are coming back from Australia. I mean, but what we do need, and what obviously our party and the Labor Party will be supporting, is clearly to have the sort of provisions that we would have for New Zealanders in a similar situation. And I think that's a principle that certainly I can accept and we can all accept. But to say that somehow that has to wait until 2 weeks in the middle of October before we start drafting this piece of legislation is absolute nonsense. We could have had this in place some time ago. We could also have been giving Australia, making a much firmer demand on Australia to provide that information. We had the Prime Minister Turnbull, come here just over a month ago. Now, I don't know what happened in the meeting between Mr Key and Mr Turnbull, but I can tell you that from our side, that was the only thing we talked about, was the rights of people coming back and being sent back, but also the information that we had when we were here to make sure that we were able to protect ourselves. And it really actually grates, sir, that when last week, in an extraordinary sort of outburst from the Prime Minister, points the finger across the House and says to us that somehow we don't care about the safety of New Zealanders, about the possibility that rapists and murderers and whatever are coming back to New Zealand. Of course we do. That's why we're standing up and agreeing with this legislation. But to accuse us of that when this legislation hadn't even hit the House, when we already have 200 odd people have come back under a regime where there is absolutely no protections, sir, that is absolutely wrong. So let me just come back to, I think the issue here, which is what the objective is of this legislation in the first part of the bill, which is to provide that similar management for offenders whether a sentence is served in New Zealand or elsewhere. And obviously that pertains mostly to Australia when they are coming back. And it's protecting the public from reoffending and providing greater support for the reintegration of returning offenders. And sir, I'm reading from the national interest statement here, sir, that makes the obvious point that the two are very closely linked together. That if you're going to be protecting people from reoffending, then the process of reintegration is essential to making sure that that actually happens. And let's just remind ourselves what we're looking at here in terms of reoffending. I mean, the police in their reports that have put out recommend that 43% of the people that are sent back under the current conditions will require some sort of ongoing surveillance. I mean, that's a significant number of people. And in the past, and I recognise what the Minister was saying before, that the numbers are coming back and some of the numbers are now going to be collecting a larger group who will have more minor offences. But certainly since 2013, 70% of offenders have been convicted of serious offences, including 30% for assault, 20% for armed robbery and burglary, 15% for rape or sexual assault, including child sexual offences, and 5% for manslaughter or murder. 48% of those people coming back under the old regime in 2013 reoffended within 2 years. So half of the people coming back under the old regime reoffended within 2 years. And here we have a situation, Mr. Chair, where we are where Australia is, one, sending people back, sir,
David Shearer.
sending people back, and I completely agree with the Minister, and that the moral case for doing that, both for the benefit of Australia, leaving people without a spouse, a father or a mother on that side, and two, bringing somebody over here without any connections in New Zealand is actually bad for both countries, quite apart from the people that are concerned. I mean, the rights here, and you begin to wonder whether Australia's lost its moral compass somewhere along the line. But, sir, the point is that with those people coming back, we have to make sure that the people that are coming back are looked after properly. And while I accept what the Minister says about this legislation being narrow and only looking at the justice part of the equation, what we're hearing out there is that there are offenders that have come back who are ending up in the doorways of WINZ, waiting for WINZ to open, who don't have jobs. We're hearing of former people that are being sent back looking to commit crimes, have already had crimes committed by these people who have come back as well already. There is no plan in place to make sure that those people are reintegrated properly so they don't reoffend. And while I accept that this is not a central part of this legislation, for God's sake, it has to go alongside, surely. It absolutely has to go alongside to make sure that the two things together. And I don't see any evidence of that at the moment with the reports that I am hearing of people ending up on the street and actually not being met at the airport and just being told to get into a taxi. So, sir, I just want to finish off by saying while we accept the purpose of this bill, the objectives of this, I don't believe that the way that it's been put through, the way that it's been introduced to the House and the speed that it's been done will do New Zealand any favours whatsoever. Thank you.
David Clendon.